Yay, I'm so excited. We're here with Mai Lê Ho, yo, creator of LayeRhythm. Let's go. Oh my God, so excited. Thank you for being here. For real, for real, for real. So yeah, so like just to give you an idea of sort of what the idea here is, it's really just to tell our stories and you know, for people to hear, you know, how it all started. Like myself, I'm super curious about where people start and how they began, especially in dance, because everyone has their own journey. And then when it comes to something like LayeRhythm, I want to know everything I can about LayeRhythm. It's one of my favorite things that exists.
Breakfast, no.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we can just start at the beginning. Like, how did you get into dance? Why dance? You know, where did it all start?
Okay. 1 minute version, 2 minute version, 5 minute version.
As long as you want. We got time.
Cool. As far as I can remember, my earliest like strong memories of dancing were me in front of a screen watching and trying to imitate Michael Jackson and his dancers. My dad had gotten me a VHS tape of Michael Jackson videos, and I just remember like watching this over and over and over again, being so obsessed with it. And I think from there on, my mother signed me up to a dance class, which was like, they called it, I think, modern jazz. But I realized as I went to this class, and I was about 8, that I was good at dancing. I realized while being in class, I'm actually good at this. So, you know, when you're good at something and you kind of like it, then you keep on doing this thing. And I kept on. At 12, I signed up for this hip-hop class, and I learned the way. Like, I'm not going to do the whole way, but I practiced this move for, like, many months as well. I was obsessed with it. I wanted to get it right, you know? But that's the first, like, street dance move I learned. And I had to move. I had to travel, so I kind of stopped. And then after maybe a year in this new city that I was in, I found again a studio that had street dance classes, and I went, you know, just being around the people. That's where I met one of my mentors, Redouane, in Grenoble, which is like in a city in the Alps in France. All that happened in France. I was born and raised there. And he was a locker and a b-boy, and so I was always pretty terrible on the floor, but he put me onto a lot of locking. And then 3 months later, again, I had to move, you know, personal reasons. So we moved back this time to Paris area, and again, I kind of stopped, you know, just like you move to a new city, you have to acclimate yourself, make new friends, all of that. And then after a while, again, I found a street dance community. And a bit later, I was introduced to house dance by Babson, my house mentor, first house teacher, rest in peace. And that really like changed me. I was in love with the music. I was blown away that there was a dance looking this good that would go along with the music, you know. And I fell in love right away. I wanted like all of it, more of it. Like where do I go, because this looks like this super underground. I never even knew about this, you know. And so from there on, I went to the June DJ OON. It's a club in Paris, which you can go to, still around, you know. And they had a party every Sunday called Dance Culture. And all the house heads or house dancers, you know, in Paris area would go there every Sunday. So that was our like practice spot / school / reunion / you know, party place. And I was going there religiously every Sunday for many years. That's where I learned a lot about house dance, met all the people. And meanwhile, I'm being more and more, you know, around just the street dancing in general, because house was pretty much connected to, you know, hip-hop dancers and lockers and poppers. And
it's one big community.
and you know, in I think that in France we live this culture, dance culture, a lot through battles, contests, and so battles would have a house category, a hip hop category, a breaking category, etc. And we would all see each other, you know, at these spaces. So my introduction to house in a way was not so much like, yes, it was through the club, through this party, but it was also through street dance, actually. Yeah. It was associated with street dance.
Nice.
You know, and it's later that I learned a clear distinction between house's club culture. You know, it's different than
versus
than other
just
styles.
street.
Yeah. Or several of the other styles. Not
For
all.
sure.
But that distinction became so clear when I moved to the States, actually. You know, and you really see like, oh, a lot of houses have no interest in battle culture at all.
Yeah.
You know,
it's just a club or a party.
Yeah, it's a very different spirit and energy to it. So yeah, I learned a lot, so much clarified once I moved here, and then just being around, observing. It was pretty blurry to me before that, and I could tell. That's what I say often. Like, I was learning the styles, I was learning foundation, you know, digesting as much as possible. Right. But I could tell I was missing something, and I didn't know what it was I was missing. I couldn't put a finger on it. And it's once I moved to the States that little by little everything unfolded. As far as the you know, like house culture itself, but also as far as how we live and how we dance these dances is different. How our approach to the dance and to the culture surrounding it is different, you know. I think in many European countries we kind of like received the dance, but we didn't receive the context in which it's impossible. You can't like take the whole context with you across the ocean. You know, you can only take so much and pass on so much, and so we miss a lot of that information, which is so important, so informative. Sure. And I think we miss the people to music, to dance connection, the emotionality underlying these styles. And I think it's also a cultural differences, you know. Some parts of the world, people may be more or less connected to their emotions, or more or less able to express, maybe, you know. So I think all of that come into play, you know. It's never one single thing, but I do think we live the dance differently. I know, for example, as far as I'm concerned, I definitely didn't understand music in the same way, and the connection to music, and the primacy, is that a word? Like, like the importance, you know, the crucialness of music. It was almost like an afterthought. Of course you want to be on beat, but you want to you have to learn the foundations, have to learn the technique, you have to be good, you know.
Musicality is not as much of a priority.
Yeah, it was a little bit, and feeling was not as much a priority, you know. And I would say, I'm gonna be like so broad right now and like maybe, you know, oversimplifying things, but I would say maybe in France I feel that there's like 2/3 are about technique and vocabulary, you know, and then 1/3 about feeling and about just the dance, you know, nothing technical about, just the vibe, just dance. And here is I feel the opposite ratio, you know. I feel like most importantly, like make us feel your dance, you know, make us feel something, awaken some sort of aliveness here, you know. And then if you have the technique on top of it, like yes, let's enhance all that. But first, you can do nothing without this core.
Right.
Like, we don't care about the rest if this is not here.
Right.
Yeah. And so you see it in the way people react to even like contest and battle.
Yeah.
They're not moved by the same thing. You know, in France, like,
Yeah.
ooh, that move was crazy,
Yeah.
you know. And here it's like, yo, they're vibing. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like the reactions are different. And so that educates you, you know. Anyway, I went on the tangent.
No, that's fine.
But yes, all of that has just been part of my education living here, and redefining, you know, what dissidence is or means, or how to approach it. Definitely a huge learning curve has been to learn the history, or, you know, as much as I can learn the history of this place, and seeing how it is not only the foundation but embedded in how these dances are lived, performed, watered down sometimes, pushed, minimized, in spaces, in various spaces in the States, versus commercialized, versus, you know, versus Europe or versus Asia. It really brings you a broader perspective, and I think that always the more you know, the less, you know, judgmental you become. You know, it's like, okay, like you kind of understand why things are a certain way in another place, without be like, whoa, why does it function like that? It makes no sense, you know, like,
and
I've seen that happen too. And so here it's been actually a bit shocking to me arriving here, and seeing how little opportunities and support there was for the development of street and club dances. You know, I was so used to, in France there's so many opportunities actually.
Really?
There's like dozens and dozens of street dance theater companies that you see perform in the space, like doing tours.
Love
like
that.
Touring all year long, you know.
That's
in
awesome.
France or beyond France. But there, you know, you see possibility when you see that, you know. There is support, production support, you know, like to do good, you know, like quality production in theaters, that you can put your vision to the table and see it realized.
That's awesome.
It's much harder to see that happen here.
For sure.
Not only street and club dance, just dance in general,
Yeah.
but
Specific,
definitely another
definitely,
level, you know, for street and club dance. There's that. There's just the status of a dancer in general, of an artist in general. In France, that is different. Where over there they have something called intermittence, which means, again, like oversimplifying, if you work this many gigs in a year, you know, you pass that quota, then next year you're gonna receive a stipend from the government every month. Let's say, whatever, 1,000 per month, you know, that you will have guaranteed for the following year. And if you want to renew that, then next year you have to again have a minimum of a certain amount of gigs throughout the year to, you know, to prove your artist status. And then if you prove that, then you, again, the next year you receive this stipend again. It gives so much stability.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And that's, I don't think I've seen a model like that anywhere else.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. And if I think about an equivalent that would be here, would be like a UBI, you know, but beyond just artists. And I hope one day we'll get something that like a UBI, amazing. You know. I think it would be game changing for so many people, especially in a country like the States. As so much inequalities, lack of access, you know, it's wild to see. So yeah, all that to say, that was part of my learning and my journey in growing in these dances, and it made me even more hungry in a way to be like, oh, there's work to do. Like there's no way this amount of talent, this amount of richness, you know, in the dance and in the music and in the people, in the culture as a whole, like this deserves so much more. Like this needs to be seen, this needs to be respected, appreciated, yeah, it makes you more hungry in that sense, or it made me more hungry.
Love that. And it makes complete sense. Just knowing the energy that's cultivated at LayeRhythm, and like knowing that stems from you, you can feel the appreciation for the dance. And I like that you differentiated between the sort of priorities of each cultures, because it is true, here, especially in New York East Coast styles, I feel it's more style over technique. Whereas like in LA, they found themselves in a place where technique was put on a higher pedestal than style. So for you to come from the France community, who clearly respects the movement itself, and might not have the resources for the history or the education of the evolution of the movements, still to have appreciation for foundation is, I think, as important as appreciation for style. And it is that well-roundedness that helps build the community.
Yeah.
Because especially now I'm seeing it where, at LayeRhythm, it's becoming a mix of communities now. There is the street and club cultures that have been there, and now you're starting to see like studio culture show up, which we mentioned before on the show. Like shout out to Modega for really like putting it on for that sort of blend of communities. But it all makes sense, when it comes from someone who actually appreciates all that dance has to offer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You make me think of one thing, which is I've seen less and less people travel to New York to educate themselves as dancers, and I think that's sad. I think we're growing our disconnection here, and we're missing out on a lot of really important information if we wanna take this dance seriously. So just food for thought for my foreigners.
There's a weird like sort of like bubble. I don't know. Like I feel like the New York, especially the New York street dance scene, exists within a bubble, and a lot of people are okay with that, and they don't want outside influence or like a different culture, coming and mixing. And it's a very prideful perspective on it. But I think we have to be open, especially if we want, hip hop dance and street dance to be seen the way other styles have been showcased, to get that support. Like I'm honestly shocked that in France they support dance like that, because we don't see that here. And it's disheartening a lot of times, being involved in the arts and especially dance, and not having that support, whether it's like financial backing.
So many people quit.
Yeah,
so many
it's
people
hard.
quit.
It's hard to keep up with. But it deserves that, and it's only going to happen through multiple communities helping out. So we do need that connection. Glad to have somebody like you here that can make a connection like that.
Thank you. Happy to contribute. I was when I said like we're missing out a lot, I was saying we as foreigners. I think we're missing out a lot by not coming here and getting to see what things are like here, and getting to see the daily lives of people here who are trying to live off of this dance, and see what their life, what their relationships, what their daily environment is like. I think that informs the dance
for sure.
And I don't know why people would think it's not necessary. In years and decades of practicing this dance, it's not necessary to come here.
Yeah, I mean, not to like put New York on a pedestal, but it's kind of equivalent to like Mecca, where it's like if you want to see where it started and how it all began, like you have to come. There is no other place.
Absolutely.
But a lot of that has been lost, the appreciation for the history of it, because it didn't matter for a long time, really. People weren't like seeking out. Even people here take it for granted, not just people that come here, but the people that are here already don't necessarily seek out that education and just want, what's right now. And I get it, what's hot is what's hot, and that's fine. But it adds so much. I'm a big fan of well-rounded dancers. Even if a dancer has a style that they really mastered, if they can throw in things, from other styles or cultures, that always makes it more exciting. But yeah, no. So you mentioned that in the France community, there's way more like battles and competitions and stuff. So is that, I guess, is there like an understood sort of healthy rivalry there? Like, is it serious competition, or is it just part of the, what's the level of competition?
It's serious.
Yeah.
It's serious. People just practice to win battles. Most people, I'm not, again, I can't say everybody, but from what I'm observing, and things might have changed, it's been 14 years that I'm in New York. I'm a bit disconnected from the French scene. But it looks to me that it actually has intensified, and battles are big. There's many more big battles as well. And when I say battles, it's like organized contests. Right. And people really, their motivation is to win these battles, and so that's what they practice for all year long,
Interesting.
And that's the disconnect that house heads here talk about, especially in the context of house culture. It's like, what? Like, this is so foreign from what we're about, we're not dancing for the same reason here.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a party atmosphere than a competition.
Yeah, and in the spirit, it's so much more of a loving thing than an aggressive opposition
for
thing.
Sure. I think it's funny because you say like people train just to win. I think here the equivalent is choreo competitions. It's like college level, choreo regional competitions.
Yes.
We talk about all the time. There's a team based out of New Jersey, Project D. They are winners. Like, they know how to win. They train to win. So there's like that level of competition. I don't know. Would you want to see more battle culture here?
I think there's I love parts of it, I think there's really, if you just look at competition period, you look at basketball, like any sport, competition is healthy, and it helps you elevate the game, and it is a source of highly motivation to get better. So in that sense, 100%. And it's also wildly entertaining to watch. So for that, I think that's I do many battles as well, and I think that's my motivation there. It's growth. It's really like a platform to grow, to challenge yourself, to see where you're at dance wise, but to see where you're at mentally as well. Like it's a great platform, and I think to have ongoing opportunities, to have that, not just the one thing a year, it's hard, but if you have something maybe like every month or different organizations, you put them together, and it's like, okay, now we have something ongoing where we can test ourselves. I think that's great. I think that breeds growth.
Yes.
So in that sense, I would love to see more of that.
For sure.
And on the other side, I would love to see more, like more party, communal celebration things in places that are battle focused.
Yes.
Maybe a bit overly battle
I
focused.
think battle events and jams go hand in, like, they should be both happening, as part of the same event. I think it just makes sense. And you talked about how, it pushes for growth. one event that I've seen that happening is the Who Rocks Battle 101 series. Yeah. And like I've been watching the range of people that enter, and it is from like a level of somebody who's just starting to get into battling, and then someone who's like a master of battling, and everything in between.
Yeah.
And that's great that there's a safe space where people can feel enough confidence to want to get out there despite, maybe not being at the same skill level as somebody else.
It's important to have, I think, these things where you can assess yourself. Like, okay, it looks like I'm more at a beginner level, whatever. Or now this looks like a jam where it's like higher level. Okay, am I ready for this? I want to get ready for this. And it helps you assess where you're at. And there's an equivalent of that in the club, which is the ciphers, like you want to observe first what a cipher is about and who's dancing in it. And okay, like, is this a everyone's welcome type of cipher? Is this a, oh no,
this is a cipher.
Like, this is a serious cipher, and you should not enter that until you reach that level. It's to me, it's a lot of motivation, that as well, So same, like, as long as there's places where you can, like, assess that and see where you're at, it's healthy.
Yeah, for sure. No, exactly what you just said. We were talking about this not too long ago, actually, because like you said, there's a difference between like a party cipher where it's like, anyone who wants to join in, or so like we were at an event not that long ago, and there were some dancers there, but it was mostly just people hanging out, but really good music. So we were just kind of observing, like doing our own thing. And then some of the dancers, they started dancing and stuff. And then they kind of saw that we were moving in a way that shows that, like, we know, dance. So they started coming towards us and, like, wanting to pull us out and stuff. And it ended up just being the few of us, that were there, not that many people. Now, at LayeRhythm, I wouldn't just jump in any circle because the level of dance there is, way higher than just a party at a local brewery. But it is super motivational, like you said. Like, as much as I love freestyle dance, I also know, where I'm at in my own journey. So to see people ciphering at LayeRhythm, it's like, whew, that's really good. I know I'm not there, but I know what I can work on to try to get there one day.
Makes you laugh. Makes you want to laugh.
Oh yeah. That's
nice.
And that's such a hard balance, I think, in finding the sort of like welcoming part of it versus the intimidating part of it, because it is super intimidating when you're not ready.
Yeah. In so many places in life, like the balance between feeling safe enough to take risks, and jump into the unknown, but not too scary that it freezes you, or whatever your mechanism here is well different. But I know for me that's it's like, it's too overwhelming, too far. I'm like, I can't do anything, or maybe here it's a little bit of safety and I'm getting comfortable and I feel just safe enough to like hop onto the next risk. That sweet spot is true. It's hard to find. It's hard to find places, I think, spaces, environments, people that are, can cultivate that. And I think it's different as well where you're at on your own journey. This space might be good for today. That as a space is good for you in a year from now.
Right.
Like, so we need all this wide range.
Totally. Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And then you even find pockets within, those communities where it's like, there might be the big cipher, happening towards the stage, but then maybe over here, it's a smaller circle where it's a little safer.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just gotta find where you fit.
Exactly.
So I really want to get into LayeRhythm. Obviously, I've been talking about a lot.
Layer 2.
Yes.
So
I know we talked about it a while back. briefly before one of the shows. But yeah, just remind me, like, how did LayeRhythm start? Where did the concept come from? Where did it all begin?
In 2009, that was my first year here. And after my first year here, I was back in Paris for a small year, for maybe 9 months. And during that time, one of my best friends, Isabelle Clarençon, she was talking to me about, combining forces and doing a party or an event that would combine live music and street dancers. So actually that like basic idea was her bringing that to the table. And so we tried to, that was the only thing. There was no more definition than that.
Just dancing and live music.
So broad, street dance and live musicians.
Was it performance or a party?
Performance.
Okay.
And with a DJ, so a party, but more so like this encounter of street dance and musicians is for the performance. And we tried to find a venue for that in Paris for many months. The project was called Salade Composée, which means mixed salads, mixed bowl. And we couldn't find a venue that would host us. And by this time, I was heading back to New York, so I kind of left this project. And she joined forces with another friend of hers, and they continued on the search, and they found a venue called La Bellevilloise in Paris, where they actually did this event. And while I was here, it was in the back of my mind, like, oh, maybe I could do a similar, I could do a similar thing here. But I never really, honestly, just had the confidence, courage to act on it. So it was a far remote idea in the back of my mind. And then sometimes I would end up being in a jazz club, and I would be like, oh, I had this idea, and if you see a venue, it's like, oh, this venue would be nice.
It always comes back to you.
It kind of comes back, it's like, hey. And as I'm seeing these things as well around, the idea gets a little more refined, a little more precise. Then in 2014, I was very, very, very lucky to be invited to be on a tour with Theo Parrish, who's a music producer from Detroit. And he put together a live band with some of my music heroes in this live band. And he wanted 4 dancers to be on the tour, freestyle house dancers to be on the tour. Because, it was a European tour. He has a long, career behind him of producing, of DJing parties across the world. And he was talking about how he's seen the crowds change. He's seen people relate to music and parties differently, and it bothers him a little bit, in the sense that nowadays people are not so much dancing to the music he's playing. They're standing, watching him with a beer or with a phone, filming him, and it's like, what for? There's nothing. I'm just playing records, There's no dance with your folks right here. This music is. I'm playing this music for you to dance and be social, And he said he's seen that, shift, especially in Europe. So he wanted to bring dancers on to, I guess, to model, his idea of a party on stage.
Put it on some bodies.
Just go into your zone, do what you want, exchange with other dancers, and all, just to encourage people to live this music and receive it. And so we did this tour. And we did prepare bits of choreos, and transitions, things like that on several of the songs, but we didn't have much time. But there was that one song called Solitary Flight where we left it untouched. And this song was about to be just us freestyling, do our thing. And throughout the days and weeks, I started to notice how this specific song that we left untouched was really where all the chemistry was building day after day. Chemistry between us and the musicians, between just us as dancers, between all of us and the audience as well. Just the freedom of it allowed us to be playful and allowed us to, I think, listen to each other a little more. And I remember very vividly one day being on stage, and I'm looking at the crowd, the band is behind us, and I'm freestyling, I'm doing some footwork, and I hear the drummer kind of like follow my footwork now with his drums, and and me like realizing that, and I'm seeing this woman looking at me from the audience, and I can see in her eyes she's also noticing and understanding what's happening. That moment was really key for me. I was like, oh, there's something here, like
That's
we
magic.
need to explore. Exactly.
Yeah.
It feels like magic. We need to explore more. There's a three-way connection here that's special. And so you're on tour with some of your heroes. You come back with a little bit of confidence boost. It's like, okay, now maybe I'm ready to put this thing, this idea, bring this idea to life. And so I was talking to Stefan at Meridian 23, who was the manager there. Meridian 23 was a club.
The first venue.
The first venue, exactly, in Manhattan. And I mentioned the idea to him, like, could you help me? My connections is the dance world. I don't know many musicians, but could you help me like find musicians that you think would be a good fit for this? And then he introduced me to Malik right away. Malik Work, who had a Tuesday party at Meridian called Alchemy Tuesdays, and he brought a lot of musicians because that's his world, like MC musicians. And so Malik was down, like, okay, boom, let's join forces. So between Stefan and Malik, they helped me connect with some musicians.
Dope.
I brought in the dancers, and the deal was simple. It was, it's free. There's no money in, no money out. Whoever wants to come vibe, like and play. And yes, it's gonna be based on ideas from the audience. That was already like in it, and it's gonna be different segments with some themes, and then musicians and dancers exchange. But it was still that was it. It wasn't as defined as the bricklayer you mentioned and the C layer and the rhythm, like how it is today. Today is much more defined, and that's just from years of being in it, watching it, having more ideas and testing them out. But at the time, that was it. And so it was that for maybe like 1 or 2 years. That was 2015. And then the venue closed down, I think in May 2017, if I'm correct. We had a hiatus then. I had a hard time finding a venue that I think was a good fit for what we did, and that had a deal that was also, manageable. It's the deal sometimes as venues are crazy. I can't do your bar guarantee. There's no way, that number is way too high. So it took a while to find another good fit, and then we got connected with Johan, the owner at New Blue, and he opened up his space, and so we restarted, and I think it was 2018.
18.
No, 17.
Okay.
I believe September 2017.
Interesting. I wonder.
I think I got my dates a little mixed up, but.
Because I think I went to my first LayeRhythm. It had to be somewhere around there, either 2018, maybe even 2019. So I didn't know that it just restarted. After a long. Because to me, when I walked in, it was like this world that had existed for years and years and years. Yes,
every time we have a hiatus of some sort, whether that's COVID lockdown hiatus or this one. I'm so scared every time that people are not going to show up again. It's like, the thing like kind of got forgotten, whatever it is, people changed. And I'm like, are people going to show up? I don't know. Every time.
It's too special. People can't
And
forget.
It was so heartwarming to see that when we picked it up at New Blue, people had missed it and they showed up.
That's awesome.
It was really nice.
Yeah, no, and then you now you have a built-in audience, a community that goes, and now that it's expanding, it's only gonna be bigger.
It's really exciting to see the growth for sure.
That's awesome.
Over the years.
And even the structure, there's been new games and new themes recently.
Yes.
Love that. Where did that idea come from, that there were gonna be a game or like a theme?
I used to be a part of, I mean, still a part of it, but I live here now, so I'm not as active, of a Vietnamese, French Vietnamese community organization in France. My whole teenagehood, I was very, very involved in it. And one of the persons there, his name is Shushu. He's a fan of games, like board games, and he introduced us to so many games. And I learned before that, but affirming that in that structure, that games are such a great way to bond and to connect people and to learn how to be in community as well. You know, I love games in general. You know, so there's that. I think games are great to grow. You know, I think that what we do in practice, you know, when you lab, you kind of giving yourself games in a way. It's like, okay, let me try to do only, you know, you give yourself constraints.
Right.
Let me just play with this thing, or let me just play with these 3 steps and see how I can create around that. Like, to me, it's a form of game. So so it was part of like trying to bring these ideas into the space. It was also a bit of problem solving, in the sense that how do we get people to see the genius in these dances and the genius in freestyle, and if they're a part of the contributing ideas, now they see it's being created alive, and they see the genius of that. Because I was trying to say, like, if we just do us like our regular freestyle, people might not understand that all of this is in the moment, you know, and they might that specific intelligence might just go above their heads, you know. So it was a little bit of problem solving, you know, like how do we get people to see it from a different angle. Especially, we already know and we already appreciate each other's, you know, artistry, but for outsiders, how do they get to appreciate? How do we present it to them so they see it from a slightly different angle? Yeah, these are contributing factors to why it is structured the way it is. And I realized even you know, I realized that as I was working with musicians, the truth was that many did not connect so much with dancers. And that was a bit revelatory to me, because I really thought the same way with dancers, we think about music first. That connection is first. Our dancing doesn't mean anything if it's not connected to the music. And so seeing that sometimes they were just doing their thing, like having no clue what was going on the dance floor. And even when that was like a task asked to connect, you know, I was like, okay, if the community closest to us as dancers, which in my mind is music, many don't actually see that in us, how will everybody else, you know, will see that? And again, I'm doing so many like broad generalization. Of course, not everybody is like that, but just observing that large proportion, you know, was like, okay, how do we switch people's perspective and angle,
it's becoming aware
entry door
of that disconnect. I wanted to fix that. For sure. And honestly, that makes sense to me, because you know, dancers, we usually just put music on, you know what I mean? Like, we don't necessarily need live music all the time. So it's like, if they're not seeing it, you know, they don't know how it works. Same thing like with filming, like filming dance over and over and knowing dance, you start to be able to anticipate, you know, movement, or like, I'm going to need to move the camera this way, or zoom out or zoom in. That training and that experience, you know, comes. But then also there has to be an interest, because
absolutely,
I'm sure there's certain musicians that are like, oh my God, like I love exchanging with dancers and stuff. But then there's some musicians that don't want to exchange with somebody else. Totally,
which is absolutely fine, you know. They really don't have to. And that gave me a lot of clarity in my direction on who I wanted to work with. That's for sure. You know, okay, it's got to be musicians who really dig dance, who really want to connect with dancers, understand. And understand more of that connection, and who see in this something that enriches them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, otherwise, what's the point?
Right.
It has to be a win-win. I'm all for win-win situations.
Yeah.
You know,
like you don't want to force somebody to be in a
No.
situation they don't even want to
No,
be
no,
in,
no.
especially when it's built around fun and love, and we're all here because we want to be here.
Yeah, and we won't feel the magic if you're not about that connection. The whole everything LayeRhythm is about this connection. It doesn't matter how fabulous of a dancer you are, if you're not connecting with the MC or with the musician, it just won't translate in that space.
Yeah.
We will lose the magic here.
Oh yeah.
It might translate amazingly in that other space, but in this space we're about that connection.
That's the priority.
So yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That, and I would say the momentum. It's a lot about the momentum. And
That's-
building up. You gotta warm people up. You know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go see a show and the first song, people are like, okay, and I'm like, whoa. Wait, I just get here. Like I feel a little forced right now. It doesn't feel, like warm me up. Give me something. You know. So I think it's about generosity as well. You give, you receive, and it's a two-way street. The band gives something, the dancers give something. The crowd receives that, wants to give back some more energy, and then just build up from there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about that momentum.
My God, yeah, momentum is the perfect word. Because I can feel it, like it's almost tangible, that energy when a segment starts, and it starts nice and slow usually, or like something simple, maybe one instrument, and then you can feel that build, and then there's like little releases here and there from like an audience member, like ooh, like, hey, da, and then you start feeling everyone getting into it, and then there's a point where the dancer and the band finds that connection, and then the audience feels that, and it's like an explosion.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And I love the New York crowd for that.
Oh yeah.
Like just the freedom to express yourself, like ooh, that was dope.
Yeah.
Like these sounds you're talking about. It's not like that everywhere.
No, it's
and
not.
That is really a major component, like the way the audience is feeding the performance is so crucial. So crucial.
Like I feel like that's a guarantee with, I think, a New York audience in any art space, is like, we're gonna let you know how we feel, whether it's good or bad. It depends on
people give love.
Yeah,
people
but we're gonna let you
love.
know. I've definitely been in spaces where like I'm watching something cool happen, and I'm not a particularly loud person, but I feel like I'm the loudest one in the room because no one else is showing love, and it's like that's what I'm used to, being in a space where like you let people know how you feel about what they're doing, and like you said, it helps the performer. Everyone wants to know if they're doing a good job. Hopefully they're doing a good job, and want that confirmation, that you're doing it and you're making people feel something.
Everybody's gaining from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. Where are we at time wise? Cause
you got come on, you can wrap it up now if you want to.
Because this is going to be a little off.
Why?
Because I forgot to bring the computer charger.
Oh, okay.
So the screen went off for a second. So I don't know how much time we lost here, but I know it's there. So we'll just have to match that up. Definitely. There's so much I want to unpack. But I really just wanted to hit like the main bullet points. So I guess just like what's your sort of like vision of the future for LayeRhythm, but also like your, I guess, journey in the dance community and expansion, really.
Whew.
I mean, as much as you want to share.
I hear you. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
With LayeRhythm, as it is at every stage, it's blurry, there's a broad vision, and I trust that it will clarify itself as time goes.
Sure.
But we are now a nonprofit since 2020.
Dope.
And that really has helped. It's being helpful in in being on the map of performing arts center and being taken seriously by institutions, you know, grant makers, performing arts centers. You're on the map and you start to receive support that was pretty much inaccessible as an individual artist trying to, you know, bring these things together.
Yeah.
So want to continue in that path for now because I do have a love-hate relationship with the model of nonprofit, you know, philanthropy. So, but so far, honestly, it's been so helpful and actually really instrumental in bringing stability and helping us grow. So, you know, I want to keep this going for now and see where it takes us. I do want to keep growing in the performing arts center sphere, advocate for freestyle and street dance and live music to, you know, like this is totally suitable for these stages, you know, it doesn't have to be choreographed and this and that in order to fit. If people are having a good time, they're entertained, they're liking the artistry they see in front of them, why not?
Exactly.
So more of that, and hopefully through that more of, you know, providing opportunities and better pay, you know, for everybody. And what else? I would love for this to happen in other countries, you know, not only other places. It happened in Philly twice, in Detroit twice. Love these cities. I hold them, you know, dear to my heart. I hope it'll happen again there, but not only, you know, I personally, I would love for this to happen in Paris. I would love for this to happen in Vietnam, you know, like, of course, but I would love it in LA and wherever there's, you know, lovers of street dance, club dance, live music, quality artistry. I would love for that to happen there. And more projects, you know, but let me not speak too soon.
Yeah, I love that. I look forward to LayeRhythm worldwide. I think it has all the potential. I'm obviously the biggest LayeRhythm fan, so I'm on your side with that. I want to say thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank
you for being here in this community too. Thank you for bringing LayeRhythm here. Like,
thank you for having LayeRhythm. It means so much. You know, sometimes I think about it. I'm like, ooh, it's a bit overwhelming actually to think about it. But
it's very much appreciated.
I'm so appreciative of the embracing that I received there, of the welcoming and the trust. You know, I can only guess how hard it is to trust a foreign entity, agent, whatever that is. You know, because of history and how, you know, I get it. It must be hard to trust. So I appreciate whatever level of trust I'm receiving and bringing this project to life in community with other people.
No, for sure. And you've earned it because, you know, real recognizes real. So that real energy that you've established is what's felt, and that's what brings the people who really love it and enjoy it.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you. With that, I'm just going to say go to LayeRhythm. This is probably coming out in July. So the July LayeRhythm, whatever date it is, we'll put it up. We'll share it for sure. Please go to it. Like, if you love dance at all, especially if you love freestyle, street styles, please go to it. You won't be disappointed. Yeah, with that. Yo, Mai Lê Ho, let's go.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
and congrats on this. This is so official. Like,
thank you.
I'm happy to be a part.